G'day there everyone, Daniel Anderson here. Welcome to today's edition. Now there is no doubt that one of the most frustrating things in Microsoft 365 and one of the most common questions that I get asked and that I educate people on is file management. So trying to find files that you need to get access to, getting back to files that you need to edit again or that you were working on the other day, you can't really remember where it was located, but you know you just need to get back to working on that file. So today's edition is going to be focused primarily on why I think you should educate yourself and then also others on using OneDrive for Business as the application to access all of your files. So whether they are your personal files, your personal working files, or your team orientated or project related files. Because OneDrive for Business does become your application for files. And if you can have a single place to go to access all of your files, and if done correctly, OneDrive for Business can be that place, then you are going to save yourself a hell of a lot of time and also reduce the frustration that you may have. So we're going to walk through a few different things and a few different aspects of OneDrive for Business that I think can help you in this scenario. So let's start inside of OneDrive for Business. So I am logged in as Megan. Now I'm going to jump to My Files. So you can see here the default view, My Files. These are everything. These are all the things that I work on, right? It replaces the USB sticks, your desktop, your My Docs. It's the place where you store and you save your drafts, your first versions and things like that. We get access to this across multiple different devices. We log into OneDrive and we've got access to all of our files, okay? Unless we share something with somebody else, they are yours and yours only, all right? So we've got that. Now, the second thing, and we don't always work alone, obviously, so we're not always in a silo or in our own bubble. We do work across different departments, different functional areas, different projects, different clients, lots of collaboration happening across the platform. So how do we go about then accessing the document library from a project site or from our department site? Well, there's a function inside of SharePoint that allows you to add a shortcut to your OneDrive. All right, so let's go through that process. Now, I'm in US Sales. I'm in a SharePoint site here. So I'm in the default document library of this US Sales site. Now, what you will see is I can add a shortcut to OneDrive. So I click that, you can see over on this side that it has just added this shortcut to My Files in OneDrive. So if I now pop back into my OneDrive for Business, I'm just going to give this a refresh. Now I'm in the browser here, but this would appear if you're syncing your OneDrive for Business and you've connected that to your computer as well using the OneDrive for Business client. So you can see here that I've now got this shortcut, Documents-US Sales. Now, if I open up this location, you can see that I've got the same view as if I was in the SharePoint site, except now I've just need to go to my OneDrive for Business and I've got access to that. All right, I can interact with it, I can browse, and I can do everything that I could do inside of SharePoint, but now just inside of OneDrive for Business. Now, the good thing about this is, now I know that everybody is still used to navigating through a folder structure and are still like to create their own structure inside of their filing system. Now, the good thing about when you add a shortcut to OneDrive is that I can move this around. It's just a shortcut. It doesn't change the document library or the name or anything like that. I can rename this to whatever I want. I can structure it, I can create folders in my OneDrive for Business. Now you can see here that I've got this folder here called Department Files. Now this is rather than just having all of our departments and our linked or shortcuts to our SharePoint file or libraries inside of our OneDrive for Business in the root of the OneDrive for Business here, what we might want to do is create our own little structure. So I've got this Department Files folder here. Now what I can do is I can drag and drop this shortcut inside of this top level folder that I've called Department Files. All right, so inside now, you can see that that's now disappeared from the main level of my OneDrive for Business. And now what I've got is a shortcut inside of this folder. Now I can even rename this, okay? So I might want to rename this here. And I might want to say US sales documents. All right. Now you can see also that we get a little information icon here. So your shortcut name will be updated, but the original folder name won't change. So let's rename that. So now I've got US sales as the name like so. Now, if I wanted to change something again, if I'm working across multiple different functional areas, I might want, or different sales groups in this matter, I might want to group all of my sales shortcuts because I might be part of different regions and things like that. I might want to have a sales folder, and here is the location where all of those shortcuts to the SharePoint sites reside inside of that folder. So now what I've got is my own created and crafted structure in here inside of my OneDrive for Business, where I can now navigate and it makes sense to me. It doesn't touch any of the underlying SharePoint document libraries. This is just mine. Now, another feature here is that because it's part of OneDrive, it travels with OneDrive for Business. All right, so I can now log into another device. I can access this on my mobile phone. I'll log into OneDrive and I can navigate through this structure that I have just put in place. Okay, so being able to create that for yourself is again something that will help you save a lot of time and be able to access, go back and access things that you need to. Now, another aspect of OneDrive for Business here too is on the left-hand side, and it's this favorites button or this favorites pane here. Because what we can also do, now I'm just going to jump back into SharePoint here, because this also affects how we interact, or even if we're in Microsoft Teams. So you can see here that I'm in SharePoint, I'm in the US sales team here. Now here's a file that I know that I'm going to use over and over again. So I don't want to have to navigate to this every single time I need to access it. So what we can do is we can select this file and we can hit favorite. Now that's going to add this one file to my favorites. Now, if I, again, go back into OneDrive for Business and I click on favorites on the left-hand side, then that means that that document now is there quickly and easily for me to get back to as well. All right, and I can do that wherever I am. So if I'm in my files, and again, if I select this document here, I can then also favorite that document. So it's not just in a SharePoint library or in a shared location, it's actually then part of OneDrive for Business as well. Now, you may be thinking, well, that we do have this sync functionality inside of SharePoint document libraries as well. Why would we want to not use sync and use add shortcut to OneDrive? Because when we're using the sync option, that syncs the library or that folder or that location to that specific device. So I have to be on that device to have access to all of that information. Now, if I'm using add shortcut to OneDrive, I can then just use OneDrive, the client on my phone, on my multiple other devices if I have them as well, or I can just log into a browser anywhere and then I have access to that. The other thing is that we, as we've just seen, is that we can move things around. We can rename it. It doesn't touch any of the underlying capabilities either. And then we can just craft and create our own environment, our own structure inside of your own OneDrive for Business. Now, when we're in OneDrive for Business and we are accessing our linked or shortcuts here, we can see that when I jump into a document library, we do get the full fidelity of the document library as well. So you can see that we've got all the metadata and everything like that. So I'll just jump back into department files and I'll pop into this invoices tab here. or this invoices library here. Now we can see that I have access to all of the metadata that has been added to that document library as well. Now, granted, this isn't the synced, we're not using the sync location. I am in the web browser, but we do have all of the full fidelity of a SharePoint document library, even though that I am just accessing it through the My Files section of OneDrive for Business. All right. So I highly recommend that you get educated around using OneDrive for Business as your entry point and your application to access your files and your team files and your shared locations as well, using the add shortcut to OneDrive, and then you have full control over how you structure that part, that section of your OneDrive for Business to make it easier for you. You've also got the favoriting option as well, so being able to favorite or bookmark documents that you know you need quick access to as well. I hope that brings you some value today. OneDrive for Business is or can be your application for all access to your files.